On the Business Courier front page centerpiece this week, it's a seller's market. We're not talking homes, we're talking businesses. If you're a business owner, there may not be a better time than right now to sell. According to bizbuysell.com, the internet's largest business marketplace, listings are at a 6-year high and deals are getting done at a rapid-fire pace. Recent headlines have been filled with news of merger and acquisition activity. Public companies including Omnicare and Frisch's Restaurants, huge private companies like Belcan Corporation, and large fast-growing firms like Infintech have taken the step.
We've merged with a company called i3 Verticals and Greg Daly, and we chose to make this merger because in the landscape that we compete in today, we recognize that we're going to have to do something more to differentiate ourselves in the upcoming years.
Yeah. Infintech's experience isn't uncommon. According to Cincinnati Business Advisors, this might be the best time to sell or merge a business in a decade. Business Courier reporter Steve Watkins wrote this story. He's with editor Rob Dahlmeyer to talk more about why this is happening now and what it means for the local economy. Steve and Rob.
Peg, thanks. Steve, thanks for being here.
Sure, glad to do it.
Fascinating story you have. Why is the market so hot right now for people selling their businesses?
Well, the main reason is there's a lot of cash out there. It's sitting out there on corporations' balance sheets. Private equity firms have raised a ton of cash, and they're all trying to find a way to put all this to work. And that's coupled with interest rates, which are very low right now. And so they don't have a good way to get a return on that cash by investing it. And it's also a slow growth economy, so it's tough to grow. One of the easiest ways to grow, buy another company. So that's what's happening out there.
So you tick off a bunch of companies that have actually taken a step, as Peg just talked about. What were some of the reasons that they were telling you that they decided to do it right now? Companies like Belcan or Infintech.
Sure. Well, price, surprisingly, was not the driving factor for most of these. At least that's what the business owners said. But it didn't hurt that they got a good deal, as you might expect. The reasons were a little different. Belcan, the owners there had planned to sell at some point. I mean, it was family-owned, and they owned it for decades. But eventually, the second generation did plan to sell. A lot of the firms, Frisch's, for example, they didn't have a real successor to the management team, the Meyer family that ran it. A lot of the other firms, though, were looking for a way to grow, and they grew enough on their own as far as they could, and they thought if we partner with a national firm that acquires us, we've got a lot more opportunities. So a lot of it was that, but the fact that a lot of buyers were out there bidding meant that they could get terms they wanted. A lot of these sellers wanted to stay involved in the business for another decade or so, and they were able to do that.
So obviously most of us don't own our own businesses, but many of us work for companies like the ones we're talking about here, and so we have stakes in this just as much as anybody else. What are some of the mistakes companies can make if they're looking to sell and they think they've got maybe a good deal? What are some of the hurdles?
Well, one of the acquisitions advisors told me that by far the biggest mistake owners make is they think their company's worth more than it really is. They don't get a real good valuation, or they've got a couple friends telling them what they should get, and so they hold out for a lot more money. Some have missed the opportunity to sell because they've held out for too much money.
And last question for you. You have a great list of sort of a checklist for companies that are looking to sell. Can you give me one or two, maybe the highlights?
Sure, yeah. One of the main things that these advisors said is make sure that you do get a fair evaluation of the company. Get your books in order also. Often that means getting audited statements, and try to run the company for at least a couple quarters, if not longer, where you're paying yourself a reasonable salary that some non-owner might expect to get, and things like that. Take any of the risk out of your business that you can too, whether it's relying too much on one customer or having supplier contracts in place. Buyers love to see low risk in the company.
Well, that's a fascinating story, and as Peg mentioned, it's not selling homes, but it is, when you talk about getting your business ready to sell, you do have to spruce it up like you would a home that's on the market. So thank you very much for being here.
Sure, glad to do it.